Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show on your home for SKC Soccer Sports Radio 810 WHB. We are presented by Michelob Ultra. Find your fit. And we were all toasting with a nice Michelob Ultra late Sunday night, early Monday morning when Sporting Kansas City got a big win in penalties in the knockout rounds to get to the quarterfinals. They beat the Vancouver Whitecaps after a 0-0 situation at the end of regulation. They went on to penalties and won. We're going to break all that down for you. We're going to have Gianluca Busio on the show, the man who converted the match-winning penalty in that game on Wednesday, who's been the subject of a lot of conversation around the MLS's back bubble as well. And we're going to preview this quarterfinal match with the Philadelphia Union coming up on the show. Joining me as always from Orlando, in front of the palm trees and the lagoon and the beach and everything there, is the one and only Carter Augustine. Carter, what's up, man? How are you?
What's up, guys? Doing great. That was a game that I would have felt really bad for the team had they not progressed. So I was glad, of course, to see them prevail in the penalty shootout, and it's on to the quarters.
And, of course, in her amazing hipster apartment, Allie Trost joining us as well. Allie, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Just like Carter, very glad that I did not stay up till 1:30 in the morning for more of a disappointment. That was an exciting PK shootout, and still thinking about the fact that Peter Vermees then woke up 2.5 hours later and went swimming. So that is something.
I woke up 2.5 hours later and did a 4-hour radio show. Not impressed, Peter. What else you got? I would have felt really sorry for myself, by the way, had they lost the game and then I had to do a 4-hour radio show like a few hours later too. It's all about.
I was thinking of you too. Okay, you and Peter both. That was a solid.
You went swimming 5 miles. You know, well, I was busting my butt doing a radio show. That game, though, was something else. Let's start off by talking about it, guys. And 22 shots in the first half set all kinds of franchise records and otherwise, and there was nothing to show for it at that time. Carter, I'm curious from you in particular, did you get a sense of what the feeling was like, maybe even at the halftime whistle, when it was such just an utterly one-sided affair, but the score sheet was even?
Yeah, and what strikes me is, I think Jacob Peterson said it on the radio call, if they could just get one of those chances, you know, that game becomes completely different. But with their ability to keep it at a 0-0 scoreline, the shorthanded Vancouver team, you know, they're gaining more confidence. They're kind of pulling all their wagons together. And I think as the game progressed, yeah, all the pressure started being mounted on Sporting KC. I think one that stood out to me was the Johnny Russell chance. I know he, in retrospect, is saying, man, I should have buried that. And if he did, I think it's a completely different game. That one, I think, was maybe the best chance in the first half, and then difficult position being the third string coming into the tournament. And yeah, I would say it was kind of probably building in frustration there towards the end of the first half.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that was really the concern, if you look at the progression of the game going then into penalty kicks, is does this Vancouver team have enough momentum and enough feeling of worth still in this to maybe prevail in the PKs? As we know, Sporting just had too many weapons, whether it was Tamilia in goal or the players that they had taking the shots. But yeah, that game was just a very frustrating one, and interesting to see, given that while Sporting struggled to finish some of those chances against Minnesota, you thought that some of those hurdles had been overcome by the team, and that they had maybe found their way around missed opportunities and some very opportune situations. So interested to see how they maybe try to correct that against a really good Philadelphia team on Thursday.
So Sporting Kansas City with 22 shots in the first half. I think they ended up with 13 in the second half for a grand total of 35. And still nothing to show for it by the end of the game. Alan Pulido had 9 shot attempts in the game. Graham Smith, I think the poor guy had 4 open headers from around the 6-yard box, and he put almost every one of them over the bar. And you could see the look on his face. Nobody needed to tell him, hey, get one of these on frame. He knows it. But otherwise, he's played – hey, he's been a part of 2 clean sheets, by the way, for Sporting Kansas City on that back line as well. And we're going to talk with Gianluca Busio about this in a little bit, guys. But I will say that I was a little worried about the mindset of the team going into penalties because we talk about it a lot in the sport of basketball. Carter, I know you guys are basketball fans. When those games go to overtime, sometimes there's usually one team that's excited that it got to overtime, and then there's one team that is like, how did we just blow that lead? And usually it seems like the team that wants to be in overtime, it doesn't always work out that way, but a lot of times that team ends up performing a lot better. It was like a celebration for Vancouver. Mark Dos Santos giving this big rousing speech to his team, and credit to them, by the way, with all the adversity they were facing, with so many players out, not making the trip, injuries, all of that. To get to that point, they deserve a lot of credit, and they wanted to be there. Sporting didn't feel like they should be there, and I was a little worried what their mentality might be like. But there's one factor that has to make you feel good, and it has to bode well for Sporting Kansas City the rest of this competition, and it's that man in yellow, Tim Melia. This guy is unbelievable. His ability to read the mind of the person taking the penalty, whether it's because of the research that he does ahead of time or his ability to read the eyes of the guy taking the penalty. Carter, have you ever seen anything like this man? And obviously you got to make the stop when you go the right way too. But one of the penalties, he took 2 steps to his left before the shot was even taken, stayed on his line, and could have blocked it with his chest. Have you ever seen anything like this guy?
The guys were making fun of him for that one because they said he almost overran it. He knew too well what was going on. I mean, he's incredible. You said it. I think it's a combination. He, Alec Duffy, Ash Wallace, and then the other goalkeepers. They do a lot of research coming into these games. And it's crazy the footage they'll dig up from guys' careers. From if a guy played in Peru, they've got him taking a penalty in some random Peruvian stadium or something. So they do so much work going into the game, and it pays off. And then also, he's got to read the situation as it's happening in real time, and he's so incredible at it. And it's funny because you talk about the mindset going in, and I asked Tim after the game, I was trying to give him credit and asking, about why he's such a good penalty stopper. And he said, well, in this game, I just felt like we deserved to win, and I didn't want us to go home after that game. And he also wants to point out that he gets all the credit, but he feels in every penalty shootout they've been in, Sporting, the takers are very, very good almost every single time. And so, he's getting a lot of the credit, rightfully so, but typical Tim Melia, he wants to pass on the credit to the penalty takers, who he says have all the pressure on them. He said he doesn't feel much as a goalie because it's, from the outside world looking in, when you come up as a shooter, you should be scoring in these situations. And so I think that's just great. It's typical Tim Melia, not taking any of the credit that he rightfully deserves and giving it all to the guys that stepped up and made the penalties.
Carter, one of my biggest takeaways from the post game was Tim Melia being given praise in one way or another somehow in the question, and immediately deflecting and giving that credit right back to his teammates. But it's something we talk about all the time with Patrick Mahomes, his quick processing abilities in real time that allow him to be so good and so individual almost in so many situations that not many other athletes can be in and succeed in. You see some of the stuff that he does and you're like, how did you even make that out of what appeared to be nothing? And Tim Melia, I think it's just a perfect combination of experience, skill, all of the preparation, and then his athleticism too. All of that in each moment. You can't overlook just how, athletically inclined you have to be that good in those moments. And that starts with the mental part, to be able to process those moments quickly and in real time, but then to be able to physically act on it and to get in front of the ball and in the right position is just huge. And that was a game of the goalkeepers, right? Thomas Asal throughout the regulation time, and then Tim Melia and PKs. It was really exciting to watch.
Well, we're going to get a tremendous goalkeeper matchup in this next game, as Andre Blake from Philadelphia is a phenomenal goalkeeper himself. He's having a heck of a tournament. We'll talk more about that coming up in a little bit. But it's the thing with me about Melia is he just keeps doing it. when it comes to stopping penalties as well, whether it's in shootouts or in regular season games when he has to face penalties. You keep waiting for the averages to come around. You know, that, hey, if the sample size gets big enough, he's going to give up, 80% of the penalties he faces, just like everybody else in the world does. And it almost seems to be going in the opposite direction. And one of the things I find fascinating about Tim as well is usually I feel like the goalkeeper is a big personality. He's usually the kind of eccentric one. We've seen the very brash Tony Meola in goal for Sporting Kansas City. We've seen the kind of eccentric Jimmy Nielsen and he was up to all kinds of shenanigans when penalties were going on, reading the note cards, doing the thing with the tongue that Carter's doing right there, walking up and, delaying the start of the penalty, talking to the guy, all that stuff. And Tim's the exact opposite. He's like the guy at the poker table that doesn't want anybody to see what he's doing, doesn't want anybody to know what he's thinking. And in a weird way, I'll use an analogy here. Bukatys are loud talkers, as you guys might know. And my father was a yeller. As soon as anything would happen in our house, the volume went up like crazy to the point where you're kind of like, oh, Dad's yelling again, My wife's family, her dad is when he gets mad, he lowers his voice and he gets quieter. And I'm telling you, it's 10 times more intimidating. It's like, you got to get in close, and it's scary when, oh gosh, he's talking quiet. Everybody better just straighten up and fly right. And with Tim, it's like the lack of performance, the lack of any of that stuff. You just have to know these guys on the other team. They've got to know what they're walking into. Or when I say know what they're walking into, I mean they know they're going up against a phenomenal penalty stopper, but they have no idea why he's so good at it, what he's going to be thinking. He doesn't show anything whatsoever. And to me, that makes him pretty unique as a goalkeeper right there.
Yeah, what's the saying? Goalkeepers are crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be some sort of insane to want to put yourself in front of these rocket shots coming at your face. But he kind of goes opposite that mold. And I think you're right. I think if they didn't before this game, I think everyone in the league knows now how good he is, and he's got to look like twice the size that he actually is when they're putting the ball on the spot. I do want to give him credit for in the game too. I thought he made 3 really difficult saves, despite not having a lot to do for the vast majority of the game. And you hear a lot of times, sometimes that's harder because you're not quite as involved in the game. And so Vancouver started to get a little bit of pressure at the end of the first half, and he had 2 that he had to tip over the bar that were just absolutely steaming at him, and he made that look super easy. And then the one that I was really worried about was the free kick at the end of regulation. Ali Adnan, we know how good he is on a dead ball, and that ball had a little bit of weird swerve on it as well. And I thought Melia made that look easier than it was, and didn't give up a rebound. And the ball bounced right in front of him. That was a fantastic save. So, he did a good job of keeping in the game. And part of that is, we talked about the chances that Sporting created, the vast amount of chances they created and couldn't break the deadlock. But credit to the Sporting KC defense, because we knew Vancouver coming in was probably going to sit back and counter. And they have so many fast guys. I thought, man, I don't know about you guys, but how good was Imbaum in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he's a good player.
He didn't have anything around him, really. Yeah, he didn't have much around him. I feel like almost all of their chances came from him getting it with 3 guys draped on his back, and he does a half turn and creates something. I thought he was really, really good. But credit to this SKC backline. They really limited the number of good chances. It's a back-to-back clean sheets. We're seeing that partnership now, Grant Smith and Puncic, but I think Graham Zusi was absolutely phenomenal in this game. And it might not show up in the stat sheet. The balls over the top that he was delivering, I thought Zeus had a fantastic game. So credit to the SKC defense as well. And Ilie in there as well. He was breaking up the play so well. They played so well in this game.
Yeah, Carter, I couldn't agree with you more. And I thought Vermees said it really well after the game in his press conference. when there are those types of games that just aren't going your way offensively, to have that many chances and not be able to convert on a single one of them, it could be really easy for a team to mentally get really frustrated, then as a result have mental lapses that result in dangerous corners or not corners, counterattacks and different situations that could put the team right there in a trailing from behind situation. And for Sporting Kansas City to be able to mentally stay so focused and so sharp, despite the fact that there were so many frustrations, especially in that final third, and just not being able to finish off the ball defensively. I mean, there were some times that, like you said, you mentioned those three situations where Tim Melia definitely had to pull through, and that set piece, and not letting out that second ball, not letting it bounce and turn into a kind of hectic pinball-like situation in the box was really impressive. And I just think that Sporting, while it wasn't necessarily the cleanest win because it had to go to penalty kicks and there were so many opportunities, it was a very whole team win. I mean, that took every single person, and I mean, they deserve to get through that. It's as simple as that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this defense continue to grow and get better throughout the games, because you're right, Graham Zusi, to me, has been one player on the field that I've noticed getting better and better throughout each game. And the fact that he's played as many minutes as he has and still looks as sharp and is in tune to what's going on is really impressive.
Yeah, so on a few of those points, the one save by Tim that he tipped over the bar with the swinging hand, he just kind of like swatted it away like he was slapping a fly away. That's not an easy save, and he just kind of almost looked like he was annoyed by it, just swatted it away.
Get out of here.
Yeah, Graham Zusi easily could have had 2-3 assists in that game with some of those balls that he put in that Carter talked about that found that he just put them on a platter for guys. And I think all those guys would say, hey, I could have scored, should have scored on some of those. Elie with 6 interceptions in the game, and Johnny Russell with 10 key passes. I think Johnny was maybe the best game he's had so far this year, even though that final product wasn't there. And again, I do think we have to give some credit. A lot of shots that were off target for Sporting, they got to take that one on their own. But how many different times did you see just desperate defending by a Whitecaps player throwing his body in front of a good shot attempt to block it? And then, of course, the good saves by Hassal as well. But at the end of the day, because they didn't have any breakdowns defensively and because they got Tim Melia in goal, Sporting Kansas City advance, and they go on to the quarterfinals. Well, one of the guys, if you're watching these games on television, of course, we encourage you to listen to these games on Sports Radio 810 WHB, presented by Michelob Ultra. But when you're watching the games, the other day when Busio made his start, Gianluca Busio is getting a lot of attention from the national TV guys right now. His name's getting thrown around there with some of the biggest clubs in the world as a possibility someday. He's made no bones about the fact that someday he wants to play in Europe. But right now, he's helping Sporting Kansas City win games. He's going to be our guest next. Gianluca Busio, the man that scored the game-winning penalty, right on the other side. This is the Sporting Kansas City Show presented by Michelob Ultra on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And the Sporting Kansas City Show continues on your home for SKC Soccer, Sports Radio 810 WHB, and wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you stream your video content. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. And we are joined now by the man who had the clinching penalty as Sporting Kansas City got their first win in the knockout stages late on Sunday night now. I'm trying to do the math in my head. If I can remember, I guess it would have been early Monday morning by the time he executed that penalty. Anyway, Gianluca Busio is our guest. Gianluca, man, thanks for joining us. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Life in the bubble still, and happy to get the win the other night. And we move on to Thursday, and everything's good. Everybody's in good mood and looking forward to the game.
Okay, so let's start with what you said there before we even get into the game and the performance and all that. Life in the bubble. We were talking before we started here with you and Carter. You guys have been down there for 3 weeks now. And I'm guessing that the experience is different for every person. For example, I've said, as the 44-year-old man with 3 kids, you could go put me in a bubble and let me sleep in a room by myself for 3 weeks, and I might sign up for that as much as I love my wife and kids. But I'm in a different space in life. You're 18 years old. I mean, what's life like in the bubble for a person your age in what you've got going on in your life these days?
Obviously, it's not as bad as some guys who have to family and kids at home. They're probably missing them a little bit right now. But me, I'm kind of used to being away from my family. Obviously, my family's back in North Carolina, so I'm used to being away from them. And I'm away from my host family, and I enjoy being around them. But I'm pretty much staying in a hotel room by myself playing video games all day and training and playing games. So it's kind of what any high schooler would dream to do right now, So it's not as bad. Obviously, you there's some health precautions and stuff that you have to watch out for, but it's not as bad as some people will say. And I've been enjoying it, and my teammates here make it fun. All the guys my age too, so it's not as bad as some would say, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Busio, you're living the dream. My brothers would be incredibly envious of you right now. They're all like in your age range, but I'm curious, you just mentioned the guys who are your age in the bubble. What's it been like for you all as a group, and what's been your favorite memory hanging out with all of them and getting to spend a lot of time in a kind of summer camp-like environment? That's just my perspective outside looking in.
No, this is kind of back to our academy days. All the young guys used to play in the academy, and usually when everything's normal, you don't really have trips like the academy anymore. You get you have fans and everything like that. But this really takes us back to the early days when you have early morning games. You go straight back to the hotel, no locker room or no showers and stuff like that, and you kind of have to stay in your room and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of normal for us, and it's kind of nice to get back to it. And we've all enjoyed it, and like the activities here that we have here. So like mini golf is, was on Twitter the other night. That's something that was really fun. And, we're kind of being kids again. It's kind of taking us away from all the responsibility and obviously on a focus on soccer. But, outside of that, it's a lot of fun. And probably for me, the mini golf was the most fun so far as of right now. But obviously, the video games against each other and stuff like that, it's always fun. But yeah, we're just being kids again.
So my microphone has magically appeared here. Busio, I know mini golf, maybe the competition didn't wind up going for your team's favor in that first round, but you talked about the video that went on Twitter, and I'm giving you a platform here to address the controversy. Should that have been a stroke against the other team?
Yes, and it was. We determined it after that, but. So I'll kind of take you through it. So we were playing 3v3 mini golf. I don't know if many people play it that way, but you added up your team strokes, you added them all together, and I think me, Daniel, and Jalen, we each got maybe 3 or something. I don't know. I don't really remember. No, Jalen got a hole in one, so we were at like 7, something like that. And that was pretty poor from us because we wanted to get holes in ones. And then they went up, and Felipe and Kuz, they put theirs in, and Cam needed to tap that, the video in. It was a short putt. He needed to tap that in to win the hole. And, okay, maybe we were around him a little bit, maybe a little interference, but he stood there for 5 minutes trying to mock us, be cocky. And as you can see, he touched it. And then if you look at his face, he ran away and acted, and he knew that he messed up. So you could see that. And then we were all like, okay, that counts as a putt. And they were all like, no, you guys interfered. He didn't touch it. But there was proof, and we looked back at it, and we all determined that that was a stroke, and we tied that hole.
So
you had an admission of guilt.
Did you guys?
I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Carter, where did this thing finish out? I mean, who ended up winning?
I think you can ask Boost that. Unfortunately, I don't.
All right, well, they won, but we're playing again tonight, so I think we never finished really because we were supposed to play the other course, and we never finished. But as of right now, they're up.
That was the first leg. This was like a home and home series, basically.
Exactly. Now we play on the other course, the harder course. We're ready.
I was reading the sporting diaries of your, chronicling your experience in the bubble, and you mentioned the food, and you said you're a big Italian critic, as am I. I'm curious, what is your favorite Italian dish? You've said you've had some good experiences down there, but I'm curious, outside of the bubble, what's your favorite Italian food?
Outside of the bubble? It's tough because Italian for me is really just my mom cooking, so I don't really tend to eat out Italian. But there's one in Kansas City. I want to say it's on Brookside, maybe Bella Napoli. I think that's what it is.
Yes, very good.
I haven't gone there a lot, but I went there a couple times with my host family. It was It was really, really good. I mean, it tasted like actual Italian food. You don't get that much from some Italian restaurants, but that definitely, I put that one as number one right now for me, NKC.
Now, you said your mom cooks Italian, but your mom is from the Bronx, New York, and your dad is from Italy. How does that work out? And does your dad ever cook anything for you guys?
No, my dad does not cook. He's big on presentation. He'll like cut up some fruit and he'll like put it all on these fancy plates and stuff and set it all up in different bowls. So it looks really good, but it's just him basically cutting. But my mom is the actual cook of the family, and when my dad and her started dating and when they were married, they were in Italy a lot before, my brother was the first one. So before he came along, they went to Italy a lot and spent a lot of time there. So my grandma taught my mom everything she knows about cooking and taught her everything.
Wow.
So my mom wasn't even that good of a cook. She was telling me before she met my dad. So my grandma taught her everything. And then when, she's cooking now, she knows everything from her. And I guess she's a pretty good cook all of us now.
That's awesome. I was reading that diary as well. Sounds like your mom is kind of like my mom, still sending the worried texts about being in the bubble and trying to figure out if everyone's getting tested all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get the same text every morning. It's the good morning results ? And yeah, but it's kind of been like that since we started getting tested in Kansas. So I'm used to it now, and she's kind of getting a little more loose on it. So it's okay.
All right, so we're visiting with Gianluca Busio. Let's talk some soccer now. And look, this competition has been interesting because there's not a lot of people there to watch in terms of fans, but there's some big-name people there like Greg Berhalter, the coach of the U.S. men's national team. There's all these reports out there that players like yourself, other young players across MLS, are being watched by clubs all over the world to see see how you're playing. As a player, are you aware of that when you got on the field? Are you able to just completely set that stuff aside and go play? Tell me about your thought process when you're playing in this type of a unique situation.
Yeah, I think it's different for each player. But obviously without the fans, it's automatically different for just the intensity of the game. But yeah, so obviously it's easier to get your head and caught up in all that stuff. And obviously, there's a lot of rumors going around stuff. But obviously it's easy to get caught up into. But I think once you kind of get on the field, it kind of just goes back to, being soccer, you against another team. You don't really pay attention to the outside stuff. Maybe there's not as much noise as you're used to and, fans screaming, stuff like that. But I think I can do pretty well at just kind of blocking all that out. And when I get in the game, it's me and focus on winning the game. And on the bench, maybe it's a little more fun. You can talk to your teammates more, and you can kind of have a laugh. So I kind of joke around a little more on the bench. But once you step on the field, and you don't really worry about anything outside of just going out there and playing well.
Vermes was asked about a lot of the interest and the rumors that there are teams internationally keeping an eye on you right now. And he said that at all times they're going to keep your best interest at heart, whether it's professionally or personally. As a player, how reassuring is it to hear your coach say that they're always going to keep what's best for you in mind when making those decisions?
Yeah, obviously it feels good, knowing that you have a coach who not only trusts you but wants the best for you. And I think me and Peter have had many talks from the start. When I signed, we already talked about my goal, and that's to be in Europe eventually at some point. I don't know when, but whenever it is. And he knows a lot more than me about this kind of stuff. So obviously he's going to try to move me in the right direction. And he's proved to me throughout these years that, he can handle this and he knows how, and he's treated me right and he's developed me, amazing. So as you can see, I trust him and he trusts me, and that's just so good that, I can just go out and focus on my game only.
You have a few former U.S. teammates down here. I think Joe Scally is having a good tournament. We're looking at George Bello was playing some as well. Have you got a chance to talk to any of those guys? I know Sporting's been mostly insulated, but have you caught up with any of your former U.S. teammates? Or Brian Cahill just made a move to Wolfsburg as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I stay in touch with a lot of them, just, on social media and stuff. But I think I've seen Joe and George. I saw them kind of around the hotel. And, I mean, obviously we can't, hang out in each other's rooms or anything. So it's usually just us crossing paths and, talking for a couple minutes. But, yeah, no, it's good to see them. And obviously we're in different hotels, but it's still nice to see them and kind of communicate with them and just be around them again because, usually you only see them one time, and that's when you play against them or they come to you. So it's good to kind of get back to that. And, we don't know when there's going to be another national team camp, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So it's nice to see them knowing that, you don't know when the next time is going to come.
All right, Bruce, let's go back to the penalty shootout on Sunday night, late, well past midnight your time. And we have, I don't know if you know this, we have a very experienced, qualified photographer down there capturing these images through the course of the match by the name of Carter Augustine. And Carter actually, and I mean this, he put out a really cool set of pictures after the match, which did you see these that involve you in the team? So for people that haven't seen it yet, Carter put out there this picture of, Tim had just made the third save, and it was a picture of you guys all at the middle of the field, and everybody's celebrating, but you have this look on your face like you're getting ready to get focused. I got to go make this penalty now. Can you take me back through what you remember from Tim making that save, what was going through your mind all the way up to the penalty itself?
Yeah. So obviously it started when the 90 or the game, the regular time was over. They named the PK takers, and I knew that I was fourth. And usually in most PK shootouts, either fourth or fifth guy usually wins the game for the team. And obviously with Tim being the goalie, you kind of already have an advantage on your side. So I saw it started, and I saw that he made the first save or they hit the post, and then he made a couple saves. So I kind of knew that he's made a couple saves, so it's going to be earlier that, it's going to come sooner to me that, might have to win the game for us. So, then he made that last save before me, and I was kind of already in the mindset that I'm going to go up and win it because, we were already ahead of them. So I knew if I made mine, it could be the winner. So I kind of didn't want to go, celebrate and when he made the save because, it was already in the back of my head that he's going to save this and I'm going to go up and win it. I kind of already pictured all that. So it was, like the picture, just a quick little celebration. I was just trying to get my head straight and, walk up there with confidence and put it in because, I don't want to be seen, jumping around and celebrating before I take the penalty. And I don't care, how nervous I was on the inside. I wasn't going to show that even if I was. But yeah, I was just trying to keep my head on, on my shoulders and not be too nervous, not be too overconfident, just kind of put it in.
Busio, take us into the construction of the PK lineup. When did you crack into that? And have you always been fourth in the rotation, or how did this all come together for you?
So this was my first penalty shootout and I was professional actually. So I don't really know how they determine that. Obviously in training, we take a lot of penalties. And before the regular season, it's normally just, the guys who are going to take them in the game. And I always like to put myself with them. So it's usually this year is Pulido and Johnny and, Kyrie and guys like that. And, I'll always put myself in there, even if I'm probably not going to take one in the game if they're there. So Johnny he'd probably always make fun of me for being there and taking them, just because he was like, you're never going to take them in the game. So I was kind of, I just take them for fun, really. And then, but I think I'm pretty good at them. I like to take them. I enjoy taking them, and I think I'm pretty good at them. So when I got subbed in, I kind of knew that I was going to take one. I knew that the coaches, trusted me, and they knew I took good penalties. So I kind of didn't really have to say anything, and they never made the order in practice or anything. So it was I kind of saw it coming, but also you didn't really know. And, I got subbed in, and, I was one of the main, attackers. Usually the forwards would go first, the midfielders and all of them before the defenders, unless they, take them really well. So I kind of knew in the back of my mind that I was going to step up and, have to take one. So I was kind of ready for that and, excited also because, like I said, I enjoy taking them.
You've got the confidence. That's a huge part of the equation. So
yeah,
there that you blasted it in.
Yeah, confidence is a big part of it. Yeah.
And I think your teammates had a lot of confidence in you as well. Talking to a few of them, Tim Mealy, Ilie, a few others after the game, they said when he was walking up there, we knew we were going to win it. I'm curious. You said that's your first PK shootout as a professional, obviously. Where does that moment kind of rank in terms of your still young career here?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the top moments so far. Obviously, I haven't had many, big moments yet. Just, 'cause it's a young career so far. But obviously, they're scoring goals in games. That when it's 4-0, they're scoring to tie the game, scoring to win the game. But it's pretty special in a penalty shootout when it's just you and the goalie. You score, you're through. You miss, you're out, something like that. So I've always thought about it. I've watched many games. I've watched I've done it in FIFA. So it was kind of like, okay, this is pretty cool. I've actually never experienced one like this with a lot of pressure, and it just kind of made it was all surreal to me, and it was pretty cool just to be in a part of it, and even to score the winning one. I wouldn't have wrote it any better.
So I've got a couple of questions about this. Boos, first of all, the game was so weird because obviously you guys controlled everything, 35 shots. And I have to imagine that the frustration is just building when you have that many shots and you can't get that goal to go through. And we were talking when we were broadcasting the game and looking at the videos, we were talking even before it even got to penalties. If Vancouver is able to get this thing to penalties, they're going to be thrilled. They want to be in penalties. Sporting doesn't want to be in penalties. Sporting feels like they should have won this game in regulation. But you also have Tim Mealy on your side, like you said, which has to give you some confidence. So I'm curious, like, what was can you describe what the feeling was like just going into penalties because of that? And was there any conversation with you and the players about that once you guys got there, that you got to change your mindset to be okay with the fact that you're in penalties when you maybe feel like you shouldn't have been?
Yeah. Yeah, I think obviously we were frustrated with the amount of chances we created and we couldn't score. But I think because we were creating so many chances, we knew that we were the more confident team. We were on the front foot, and we were creating chances even after we weren't even scoring them. We kept on creating. That's a big thing, because some teams, you'll create a couple and you'll miss easy chances, then you'll stop creating them and you let the other team go forward. We were kept on going and going until the last minute. And obviously some teams go in the PK shootout and be like, oh, this is so unlucky. They're gonna get lucky win, and we should have won in regular time. With the guys that we have in our team, we immediately after the game was over, or once they blew the final whistle, we were kind of like, all right, that's over with. Let's win penalties. Why worry about that? We'll look at that in the meeting next time after we make to the next game. But as of right now, we're even. We're in the penalty shootout. It's us against them. We have to be confident. We can't worry about what happened in the game, because that's just going to make it worse. So everybody was pretty much in a good mood, because we had the confidence that we have Tim in goal, and we have good penalty takers that we're going to go out and win this, even if it's no matter how we have to.
Now, my second question on this, you're obviously also very gifted set piece taker when it comes to free kicks, comes to corner kicks. You said you feel really confident. You feel like you're a good penalty taker as well. There's a lot that goes into it, but what's the biggest key? What is the biggest key for your success when it comes to all those different types of set piece opportunities? Why are you so good at it?
That's tough. Well, I guess I could start with when I was younger. I watched a lot of videos on how to take free kicks, how to take corners, and just the technique. Because even as a kid, you might not have the power, and you might not have the exact how hard you want to hit it, but you can always practice the technique. And I've used the same technique since I was a kid, taking free kicks and stuff. So I think that for me, it's kind of, I know I have the confidence in myself that I can I still have the technique. And then I think it's just in games, it's kind of you got to visualize where you want it. So especially like on corner kicks, you want to see it going right on top of the six. You want to see it landing on somebody's head. And that's what I kind of visualize. And, and free kicks, you visualize it going in. You have little targets for yourself where you want to put it, and, just the confidence in yourself that you can put it there. So like in the penalties, obviously the goalie was having a good game, but I knew that if I put this where I want it to be, then there's no way he saves it. So that's what I go into taking free kicks as, corner kicks, always that mindset that, you know, I'm going to put it where I want to, and I'm going to picture it going to exactly where I want to. Hopefully it'll do what I want it to.
So it's very mental. That's interesting. And I like the YouTube University. There's so much you can learn just watching videos. So tip for anyone watching this show who wants to maybe improve their technique. But I want to talk about Thomas Asal and his performance in that game as another young player with a huge performance in this tournament. What did you just make of what he brought to that game? And what was it like lining up across from him before your PK?
Yeah, obviously he was having a good game, and it was pretty cool to see just because, you know, he's another young kid, and, you know, I was happy for him. But, you know, when it came down to me versus him, I'm going to choose myself every time. I don't really care how good of a game you're having. I want to win. But, yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't even think about it that much. After the game, I kind of saw his highlights and like, oh, he really had a good game. You know, he had a lot of confidence, so I could have thought about that a little more. But no, when I stepped up there, like I said before, it was more about me. Like I said, it was, if I put this exactly where I want it, he's not going to save it. And I mean, he made a good attempt on it, and he guessed the right way. But, you know, I put it where I wanted it to, and had the right pace and power. And, you know, he had a good effort, but, you know, luckily for me, it went in. And, you know, props to the guy. He had an amazing game. It was, you know, he made some really good saves, and, you know, it was going to be hard to beat him. And, yeah, in the PK shootout, he also did really well. He guessed right, and he guessed pretty much right on almost all of them. So, yeah, all the best to him. But, you know, I'm happy that, you know, we could go through.
You made the PK. You guys are through. It's a quick turnaround to the quarterfinals now in this, you know, once in a lifetime tournament. What have you seen? Have you been able to watch much of the Union's games down here? And I think a lot of people are looking at it, two of the more exciting teams in the tournament going up against each other. So what do you expect from them?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of their games, and obviously they've always been a good team. They have, you know, exciting players. They have, you know, young exciting players also. So it's going to be. I hope it's going to be an intense game. There's going to be I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and hopefully more for us. But I think our defense has been good these past couple games, so I think it's going to be very difficult to deal with all them. But with the form we're in, I think it's 2 clean sheets in a row right now, and, you know, with Tim and goal, and, you know, the back line playing extremely well, I think we can hopefully handle their attacks, and, you know, hopefully we can create more than they can, and hopefully this game we can finish them, and, you know, all the chances we're creating, hopefully we're a little cleaner in the final third and we can put them in. But it's going to be a really hard fought game, and we're going to have to match their intensity, and hopefully we can come out on top.
You know, it sounds like all the things you just said about that game against Philadelphia also go for the second leg of this grudge match in mini golf. So, Boos, I just want to say thank you for the time, and best of luck in both of those competitions, because I know how important they both are to you.
Yeah, tonight it's all mini golf. That's what I'm focused on. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Get it done, Boos. Thank you. Hey, envision that ball going in the hole just like you do, you know, the free kick landing on somebody's forehead. It's all about making
Same thing.
Yeah, the imagery right there. All right, Boos, take care, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See ya.
All right, that is Gianluca Busio. We're going to take a break. We'll be back to wrap things up on this edition of the Sporting Kansas City Show right after this. And back to wrap things up on this edition of the Sporting KC Show, presented by Michelob Ultra. Nate Bukaty with Carter Augustine and Ali Trost. Our thanks to you for watching on our video streaming platforms, or listening on Sports Radio 810, or wherever you get your podcast. And it's time now to preview this matchup in the quarterfinals, Sporting KC and the Philadelphia Union. And guys, I'm not sure I'm reading this correctly, but it says here that the game's going to kick off at 7 o'clock Central Time. That is way too conventional of a kickoff time for me. I'm used to 8 a.m. I'm used to 10 o'clock at night. I was figuring this game might kick off maybe at like 2 in the morning or something. We actually get a 7 o'clock Central Time kickoff on Thursday night. Carter, how do you think the players will adjust to playing at well, Carter's face is frozen right now. So I'm going to go to you, Ali, until Carter comes back to us. How do you think the players are going to adjust to this type of a kickoff time?
It's interesting because I don't feel like the late or really early start times have been any sort of setback for Sporting Kansas City at all. Hearing all the players talk about, the really late start time or the really early start time, it seems like each of them took both of the very different situations like, hey, yeah, it's just another game. doesn't really do anything for us, whether it's positive or negative. But I think having a normal start time will be probably a breath of fresh air. Both of their games to start out the MLS's back tournament were at 7. Most MLS games are around 7 o'clock at night. So I think it'll be good. But Sporting Kansas City's proven that early start time, late start time, we'll just get 2 shutouts. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Allie. I'm curious. They have lucked out the last 2 games because in the morning it wasn't as hot as a lot of the other games have been in the morning, and then Sunday night is probably the coolest night that we've had down here in Orlando. So maybe if it's another hot game, these are 2 teams that like to press, and so you wonder how maybe that will have an effect on the game. But man, I'm looking forward to this matchup. I think I saw Sam Stejskal said the point, like Philadelphia is getting to that equilibrium point where everyone's saying they're underrated to the point where like maybe they're properly rated now and maybe eventually might be overrated, but they've been everyone's darlings for about a year now, and for good reason. Man, I think Jim Curtin I think he's done a fantastic job, and I think that's a good model. Peter Vermees is obviously such a great model for any team, but they can also look at what Philadelphia's done. Curtin coming up through the academy, and they've given him time. They didn't they struggled a couple of years there at the beginning, but they've given him time. They didn't have a quick trigger, and they're starting to see it pay dividends.
Okay, so let's go through some of the guys that maybe you should watch out for on this Philadelphia Union team. When we mentioned Andre Blake a couple of segments ago, he's one of the best goalkeepers in all of MLS. He's been tremendous in this competition, making some big-time saves for Philadelphia. But I think the guys we just talked to Gianluca Busio. There's a lot of conversation around him because of these big-name clubs in Europe that supposedly are interested in him. Well, that's the case for a couple of guys for the Philadelphia Union as well. Myself, as a bit of a Celtic FC fan, I've noticed especially they're talking a lot about Brendan Aaronson, the young midfielder, and Mark McKenzie. They have reported interest from clubs like Celtic and some other big clubs across Europe. And Carter, I'll start with you. Out of those 2 guys, what maybe excites you about them? And it's going to be fun to get a chance to watch those guys coming up on Thursday night.
Man, they're 2. I'm with you. Those are 2 very exciting prospects. We'll start on the defensive side. McKenzie's so quick and so strong. And he's really, he's played a lot of minutes already in his young professional career. So I think we could maybe see him as a U.S. center back for some time. And I'm excited to see how he matches up against a forward with the quality like Alan Pulido. Then Brandon Aaronson, he kind of reminds me of David Silva a little bit in how he just like glides across the ground. It seems almost effortless when he's got the ball at his feet. Just a very creative player as well. He can dribble guys. He can make the pass. I think Taylor Twellman has had some really good insights as to in the final third he needs to maybe clean it up a little bit, but he's a young guy, and rightfully so. All those teams are watching him. I don't know about you, Allie, but I really like watching that kid play.
Oh my gosh. I mean, both of these players I think are going to be maybe not I'll start up top first with Brendan Aaronson. I think, if we're going to see the same starting defensive lineup for Sporting Kansas City with Puncic and Graham Smith, this will be a good test for them just to see if they can continue the success that the 2 of them have had anchoring that center back role and against a player like Aaronson, who's been, so, like you said, so creative. And while, maybe some of those final moments, that finishing touch might not be there, that's only going to develop as he gets more minutes and keeps playing. What's scary about this Philadelphia team is that they are gaining that momentum, and you bring up if you're looking at the scale, are they overrated, underrated, just the correct amount of rated? They've got this underdog mentality, and when you've got younger players like that who are trying to prove themselves and are getting international recognition, you just never really know what you're going to necessarily get. So I'm excited to see that matchup and to see the Sporting Kansas City defense if they can keep that momentum going with this kind of new look that we're seeing with Puncic and Graham Smith, which I would imagine we might keep seeing if Vermees is going to stick with what's been working and what's been consistent. But Mark McKenzie was phenomenal in the New England Revolution game and helped them get that gritty 1-0 win. So I think it's just going to be all around a great great matchup with a lot of key players to watch. I mean, we just mentioned the Philadelphia ones, but I think Sporting Kansas City also getting a lot more recognition in this tournament. The Minnesota game had a lot of people criticizing, you know, their performance and wondering if they'd make it through this tournament the way that some people thought they would. And now they're showing that they are definitely a contender for the not the cup, the MLS is back cup. Is that what we're calling it? Have we seen the trophy yet, guys? Carter, have you seen the trophy? Do we know what it looks like?
If there is one. No idea. I'm assuming it has Mickey Mouse ears on it. That's the only thing I can think of.
I hope it does.
If it doesn't, it should basically be a soccer ball with Mickey Mouse ears. And if it's not, somebody failed big time. Or a goofy hat, maybe, you know, the goofy hat with the little teeth, something in that regard, or we've just failed as a league and, and I'm not going to accept it. Maybe it could be like one of those Mickey Mouse cups with the big straw. I don't know. But for Philadelphia, with the young players they do have, they've surrounded them with some good veteran leadership as well. Alejandro Bedoya is probably, the biggest name there. But, I mean, guys like Kasper Shabilko and Sergio Santos, who had the goal against New England, they've got some good veterans. That's what you want to put around a young cast of players like that allows them to grow into the game. Now, one other storyline here for Sporting Kansas City is the fact that maybe the guy that's been the biggest bright spot for Sporting so far in this competition, Kyrie Shelton, left with an apparent leg injury. He looked like he was holding his groin, receiving treatment when he left the field. Carter, I don't know if you have any insight for us, but certainly we know Sporting has some more options there. They have some depth, but Kyrie Shelton, the way he's played this competition, would be a big loss not to have him in this game on Thursday night if he's not able to recover.
Yeah, you're right. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. He's been performing down here in Orlando, not only on the offensive side, but the work he puts in. And so that'll be a big loss if he can't go. I'm curious because it's such a short turnaround between these two games. You hope that he can recover. Certainly he'll be working to try and get back into the fold here, but you wonder, who would fill in? Would it be Jerso? Would it be Daniel Shallowy? Maybe Eric Hurtado? There's some options. And yeah, he's been fantastic, and it was a bummer to see him go down before the final whistle there.
Yeah, I think. No, go ahead.
It's going to be, it's going to be. I mean, obviously the good news is that both Jerso and Johnny Russell have had some success. Unfortunately for Daniel, he missed a penalty in this game. We got to see him get going. Everybody's rooting for him to get himself going and on the right track as well. But it's going to be a good game. Before we wrap things up, guys, just want to get your thoughts elsewhere in this tournament now that we're starting to see the quarterfinals shake up a little bit. Maybe I'll ask each one of you for one thing, maybe a team, maybe a storyline that has really stuck out for you so far in this competition. One of the storylines for me is how many of the big name teams we've already seen go home before we got to the quarterfinals. Whereas teams like Atlanta and the New York Red Bulls before we even and the LA Galaxy before we even got out of the knockout stages, and now in the knockout stages, we've already seen Toronto FC and Seattle get sent home as well. Now, of course, Seattle went up against what looks like a juggernaut right now. But for me, you look at some of these names that are still in this competition versus some of the teams that are already out. That's my storyline. What's maybe something that stood out to you, Carter, so far down in Orlando?
I think we've seen some mistakes in the knockout rounds that have led to goals. And obviously goals change games. We say that all the time. But in these win or go home situations, man, especially last night, the LA, Seattle, and the RSL versus San Jose game, we saw quite a few mistakes that wound up being goals. And so I think, the team that can maybe minimize the amount of those big mistakes they make will maybe go the farthest here. That's really stood out to me as far as the knockout rounds so far.
Yeah, I think for me, a team that I think was very under the radar, and because it was their host city, there was a lot of questions how they would do. Seeing Orlando get as far as they have, although they did lose Dom Dwyer to injury, I think that's been a very unexpected, yet also something that people were kind of rooting for, given that it is in Orlando. Really interested to see how this game goes for them against an LAFC team that just seems to still be really really solid, even without their best goal scorer in Carlos Vela.
Yeah, so the last two spots in the quarterfinals are up for grabs tonight. We're, of course, doing this on a Tuesday. Columbus versus Minnesota. Columbus has been one of the real bright spots. They've looked great so far in this competition. And then Portland against Cincinnati. So those are the last two games of this round of 16. Then on Thursday, we get into the quarterfinals with Sporting Kansas City against the Philadelphia Union. Standalone game. It's on ESPN. You'll be able to listen to it on Sports Radio 810 WHB Live. I'll also make sure you know we've got an hour-long pregame show on Fox Sports Kansas City from 6 to 7 leading up to the game. We're going to have all kinds of great content exclusively from inside the bubble with Carter Augustine for that on Fox Sports Kansas City. Then myself, Jacob Peterson, and Carter will be on the play-by-play on the radio broadcast at that point in time at 7 o'clock. After the game, 30-minute post-game show with Zoom calls and everything from the players and reactions after the game on Fox Sports Kansas City. And Allie, you and Dave Borchert and Chad Reynolds with the Final Whistle post-game show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All of it presented to you by Michelob Ultra. So kick back, have a couple of Michelob Ultras, start at 6 o'clock with pregame, all the way till 10 o'clock with postgame, wrapping up. And hopefully we're talking about Sporting Kansas City punching their tickets to the semifinals of the MLS is Back tournament. That's going to do it for us, for Gianluca Busio, for Carter Augustine. Head out to that beach, Carter. Work on that beach bod a little bit. And for Allie Trost, this is Nate Bukaty saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Sporting Kansas City Show.